Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up?
I could hear you too. What's going on? Everything's good.
Very little. Yeah, it's going great. How about you?
Yeah, pretty smooth morning.
What
Just
is
trying to
that
get
color
this.
jersey?
It's his All-Star game in 2004.
Oh, wow.
2024, sorry.
Wow. That's
24.
cool. Huh. What was the format that year?
It's usually always East versus West. I think only this year in like 20 years they changed it to like Canada, US, the four nations.
Which was the greatest move ever made in any All-Star game ever. But was it were they doing the 3-on-3 first period and then 3-on-3 second period and then the two winners would advance to the third period or something?
Yeah, it's all four divisions, three versus three. I don't watch all-star games because I hate it. Like it's the worst type of hockey. It's like when there's no passion, nothing on the line, it's brutal. Like it could
Yeah.
be the worst sport. It's like preseason NHL. It's like I don't watch any of it. It's except for the first ever NHL preseason in Utah with an NHL team in Utah. So I
Yeah.
watched that one.
Yeah, got it. No, yeah, I mean, nothing's as bad as the NBA and their All-Star game and whatever. And like last year, 2024, that was like watching the skills competition, and within like 5 minutes, you're like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen. This is such a waste of time. Nobody cares. Like the making those like long passes, and it would take players like 30 seconds to like hit the little sauce kit net thing. Like it was terrible. So I get it.
I don't watch basketball, football. It's just hockey and sometimes soccer, like the World Cup, Euro Cup. So
Yeah, that's cool. You're in Phoenix proper, correct?
no,
Where are you at?
I'm in Canada, Toronto.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for doing this. I'm really excited. We're definitely going to spend like you and I have been exchanging email good 15 20 minutes talking hockey, Utah hockey specifically. Obviously our audience is not hockey based, but I don't really care. It's what I absolutely love. Were you able to make it out to a game?
not yet. Uh,
Okay.
I might go this upcoming season or the season after, but yeah, I had a wedding last year, so I took a lot
Yeah,
of
congratulations.
expenses. Thank
Yeah,
you, man. How
congratulations. That's
about
super cool.
how about you? Like, do you go to games?
So I grew up in Salt Lake City. I remember our we were the IHL affiliate of the Flames. So like I remember as like a 5 6 year old like Theo Fleury playing here. Like I know he doesn't drink anymore, but he would never have to buy a drink in Salt Lake City ever again. He's so everybody still talks about him. He just visited a few weeks ago, and everybody just loves him. But I fell in love with that team and hockey itself. And over the course of my life, I've made it to 7 games, 8 games, and every time it's you travel, you stay in a hotel, whatever. And like this year, just with the team here, I made it to like 16 NHL games, and it was yeah, off the charts. So great.
So you were a Calgary fan before Utah?
I've been an everything fan. Like, yeah, I was, loved the Flames. When I was playing like Blades of Steel on my Nintendo, I'd always choose Chicago because they were the red team, just like my Salt Lake Golden Eagles here. Um, when Colorado came online and then Vegas came online and all that stuff, they were kind of my favorite teams. And like the day they announced that Utah was going to have an NHL team, like it was crazy how quick I was like, screw the Avalanche, like screw the Penguins. I love the Penguins. Like whatever. Like I was just all in on Utah. So yeah, it's been fun.
It's great. 16 games. That's unbelievable, man. That's so lucky. You're so
16.
lucky. Yeah.
I know. So the stadium, you probably know, the stadium is not great for hockey. And so like literally if you're upper deck and you're on any of the ends where the nets are, when you look down, you can't see anything near side from the top of the face-off circle. Like a third of the ice directly underneath you, you can't see. And so they sold those tickets for like $10 each. And so I got a few of those, and like you're in the building and you get used to like watching far side and then looking up and you can watch it on like the jumbotron or whatever. But I mean the energy was super high, everybody was super amped, and a hockey naive kind of community around here showed up to hockey when they were used to jazz games, and they were like blown away, like this is amazing, like the product is so good. And so yeah, it was very well received around here.
Do they do the beer chug cam? I don't know if there's a conspiracy because I never go to the games, obviously, but it sounded like they were doing a lot of the beer chug cams in the arena. Then they stopped for a bit, and then maybe they brought it back.
Oh,
Like
I
they,
didn't know if I know they have always done it. The first day, the season opener that I was able to go to against Chicago, which is super special. They set by far a record of beer sales. Like I don't think they realized like hockey fans are not basketball fans, especially in Utah where not many people drink. Whether it ever went away or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was made most famous when somebody took off their prosthetic leg,
yeah,
poured a beer into it, and chugged it from there. Like epic.
yeah, legendary stuff there.
Legendary stuff. Oh man. All right, dude. Well, let's get this rolling. This is going to be great. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Julian Capogna, known as 99.6 The Howl on YouTube, has been making the hockey vlogs since 2016, covering his favorite NHL hockey team, the Arizona Coyotes, which after decades of poor ownership was graciously transferred here to Utah in an unprecedented move in April of 2024, when my new beloved NHL team was first known as Utah Hockey Club and is now titled the Utah Mammoth. What started as a throwaway project for Julian has grown into one of the most popular independent channels where Utah Mammoth fans come for game recaps, player analysis, prospect reports, and discussions on how the team is developing. Julian strives for consistency and accuracy when producing videos for Utah's newest major sports franchise. When he's not scouring the internet for upcoming draft picks or newly acquired players, Julian spends his time maintaining a healthy and fit lifestyle to give him the tools needed to combat the craziness of life. Recently married, congratulations, Julian represents the everyday man of balancing a full-time job, a passion project, managing his personal life, and discovering a healthy mindset. You can find Julian on YouTube at 996 The How. Julian Capogna, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you. Great introduction.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your content. It's one of my absolute favorite things to discover things that I didn't think I really like cared about, and then learn about them and realize that there's interesting things there. And our podcast is mostly about, fitness and health, and we talk about diet and all kinds of different stuff. But for the listener, we're going to be talking hockey for the first like 15, 20 minutes here, and we're going to be talking about my favorite team. And I hope that all the listeners are approaching this the way I approached watching, say, Drive to Survive on Netflix for the first time, where I didn't care anything about Formula One, and you start to see it and you get way into it. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about hockey in particular and Utah hockey. But I do want to talk to you about your own life. How did you get so into hockey itself, and in particular with the Arizona Coyotes franchise?
Well, first, I could already sense the enthusiasm and passion you have for hockey. Like, I could hear it in your voice, how excited you are to talk hockey. But this probably is the first time ever I'm going to talk about how I became an Arizona Coyotes fan. I've never talked about it on my channel. So you got the scoop, and congratulations
There
for
we
that.
go.
But
Heard it here first.
growing up in Canada, Toronto, I mean, you live and breathe hockey right out of the womb. Uh, all my family members, big hockey fans, dad getting me into hockey. He was a huge Leafs fan, but I hated the color blue, like from since I gained consciousness. So I always gravitated towards the color red. So Toronto and Detroit had a great rivalry in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I gravitated to Detroit, Steve Yzerman, my favorite player ever growing up.
Oh my goodness.
And then mid 2000s, like when there was talks about his retirement, they got eliminated by Calgary in 2004. Then I switched from Detroit to Calgary, where Jerome McGinley became one of my favorite players. Now his son is drafted by Utah. So I was a Calgary fan for just a little bit. There was a lockout shortly after the Flames lost in that Stanley Cup final to Tampa Bay. And then I stuck with him for like 2 or 3 years. And then 2010, I was working evening shifts. And so when I come home from work to watch playoffs, the Coyotes were playing. So they're the underdog. I love the underdog story. So 2010, they faced Detroit. So funnily enough, my first favorite team was playing the Coyotes. And we got swept the first in 2010, if I'm remembering this all correctly. And then the next year they faced Detroit again in the playoffs, lost in seven. And then in 2012, I mean, Coyotes make history, like beating Chicago in that first round, beating Nashville. Like I was all in on that playoff run. Then they unfortunately lose to LA, the Stanley Cup champions that year, and then another lockout. And then I'm like, I'm sticking with the Coyotes, which was probably the worst time to stick with them because I think that lockout just took the wind out of that team's sails. They didn't make the playoffs in that first year after the lockout, after their playoff run, and then like fought half a decade of darkness, if not more. And then they started to pick it up in 2019, and then pandemic happened, rebuild happened again. So and then they moved in April, which was a tough moment. They moved like a couple days before my birthday. I was planning a wedding around that time. And the day like it started to get real that they were moving, I was just about to walk into a movie theater to watch Civil War. And during that whole movie, in the back of my head, I'm like, they're moving. And so I couldn't really even enjoy the movie. And then a week later it was their last game on home ice. So yeah,
Wow.
I think I answered that.
Yeah, you did. That's great. Well, I didn't know that you weren't a fan from the very beginning. But for the listeners to kind of set this up, can you explain kind of backstory what was going on with that franchise? Like, obviously, I think most sports fans understand that there's periods of time when you have good teams, there's periods of times you have bad teams, and you kind of go through the cycles. The Utah Jazz are no stranger to that. We're like 5 years into a rebuild and like no light at the end of the tunnel. Nothing is coming anytime soon. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for a lot of the fans. But can you explain kind of the uniqueness of the situation that was going on in Arizona that eventually got them moved?
So like in 2012, they're on a high, like selling out, people coming to the buildings. They had the whiteout. Like when the Coyotes were winning, building was full. And yes, it was in Glendale, which is like 40 minutes on a good day, northwest of Phoenix. But if you get stuck in rush hour traffic, like it could be an hour, even more. Like when I traveled to Phoenix 4 times, like I knew to get the Uber like 2 hours before game time. So
Oh
when the
my
team's
goodness.
losing, do you really want to spend over an hour in traffic right after work to get blown out like 6-2? Probably not. But when the team was winning, the fan base was healthy. Like I said, the distance from the arena to the fan base, like all the season ticket holders, the corporate ticket holders, the majority of the fan base was Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale, so way east of Glendale. So they all had to travel. So we always knew you had to get a new arena. The NHL owned the Coyotes for a brief moment of time, trying to find new ownership groups. They found a new ownership group. They were based in Canada. I forget what they were called, Ice, something Ice. But the owners were from Canada. And that seemed like it was starting to be good. They hired a new GM, like this young kid who was touted as this whiz kid, and he took that aging 2012 veteran team and sort of changed them into a playoff bubble type of team. And then he got into trouble with telling prospects to show up to his interviews. Like we just had the draft combine last week in current times in Buffalo. Well, when this airs, will probably be 3 weeks to a month. But all the draft picks, top prospects go to visit teams. They work out, and you get to interview prospects. The GM for the Coyotes told them to come show up in shorts and t-shirts, which I guess is not allowed. And the NHL
Wow.
penalized the team like a first round pick. Like it
Wow.
was devastating. And then so that GM gets fired. They bring in Bill Armstrong in year 2020. And Bill, it was during COVID too. Bill Armstrong is like, I have no prospects, I have no draft picks, and he needs to rebuild. There was basically no scouting department, no analytics department. So Bill Armstrong had to rebuild the front office first. And then they had that COVID 2020 short season of 56 games. And then Bill Armstrong hit the rebuild button again, right when the team was coming out of its previous rebuild. But like I said, like their ceiling was a playoff bubble team, which I'm fine with. But Bill Armstrong was like, I got nothing here. If we want long term sustained success, we need to just pare it down to the studs and get all these draft picks back, build up our prospect pool, which he did. and then they moved the arena from Glendale to Tempe, where all the fans are, but it was a college arena, only 5,000 seats. And the reason for that was the previous owner, which I don't even want to say his name, promised they would win a political vote in Tempe to build on some land. And in 2023, we all thought the vote was unanimous yes. Like all the signs were pointing yes for sure. Like this would be such a boon for the city of Tempe. And then the vote went no. And that was the moment I thought the Coyotes would leave. And they didn't. They got another year of life. They tried to scour this other piece of land in North Phoenix. They fumbled it hard. Just every turn, the ownership fumbled it for that North Phoenix land. And the NHL was desperate. They did not want to leave Arizona. Like they were so desperate. They owned the team. They were so desperate. They gave it to this owner who, now it turns out he's a terrible owner, pretty much a snake oil salesman. And so it was their last ditch effort. And then Utah was already primed. They got the arena, and Ryan Smith purchased the team. And what I like about Smith is he immediately said, this Salt Lake City arena, Delta Center, like you mentioned, like there's obstructed views. You can't those obstructed view seats, they sell for really cheap, like $10. And so they don't count as like the full capacity. Like those are just extra seats. If you just want to be in the arena, be in the vibe, you can buy those seats. But Smith said, we're going to fix this arena. And when Brian Smith says things, they actually happen. So they already are renovating Delta Center. It The first phase is this off season. You could correct me if I'm wrong. And then the second phase is next off season. And even like the practice facility, immediately Rand Smith was like, we're going to build a state of the art practice facility. This where they play right now, the oval with the speed skating ice, like that's temporary, only 1 year. And look, already they built the state of the art facility already, and they're going to have their new practice facility for the new season. They're going to revitalize downtown Salt Lake City. That all got approved. So like it's a total difference from when one owner promises things, never happens, and then Ryan Smith promises things and they happen like right away. So
Wow. That's really incredible. So I live a 15-minute drive away from the Oval. So to see what they did in that space in such little time was absolutely incredible. Like it is temporary, but it is very, very nice. The space that they made was a great facility. I got to spend some time over there, like going on walks on the oval track, and you see all the players and the coaching and the staff and everything they have there. So that was pretty cool. The practice facility is going to be about 5 miles down the road the other direction. Also looks very, very nice. And yeah, I started to catch wind of this situation actually pretty early. I had a client who knows a lobbyist here in the state. And so it was February of 2024 that he was suggesting Coyotes are moving here. It's starting next year, short time frame, but there will be NHL in 2024, 2025 in Salt Lake City. And I was thinking like that's impossible. You can't do that. Like it took like 5-6 years to get, Vegas up and running when they were getting started. And so it is cool to see everything that has been done. The Delta Center is currently being renovated. I've heard it's, going pretty well so far. The problem with the stadium is it's built for basketball. It's not necessarily built for hockey, but the owners have always tried to optimize the stadium for loudness. So for example, I went to a Metallica concert there and it was awful. Like it's like the music at Delta Center, I would contend is not that great. The acoustics are not great, but like when you're there for a game, it is loud, like a playoff environment kind of a thing. And we talked a little bit about the misownership. You hear the stories. Like I've heard the story about the bubble Coyotes last year that they were good before the rebuild. They go into some game in the playoffs. They get into overtime. The players are gassed. They need to order like some food or get some like pizza delivered, and they couldn't even get the approval financially to get that done from ownership, and like ridiculous stories. And then you see the video of the players showing up here, the facilities they have. They walk into the locker room for the first time and there's an espresso machine, and like the players look at it like it came from outer space or something. Like, wow, this is amazing. So it is cool to see that they were treated differently, to hear the story of Ryan Smith flying down, at the end of the last game that they played in Arizona and chatting with the team, saying, "What do you guys want? What do you need? How can we make this work? Let's work together." And then providing everything, and the players have been really happy. They talked to other players around the league, other people visiting, yeah, have overwhelmingly positive things to say. So that part of things has been pretty cool.
Yeah, I think one of the main points, reasons, whatever you want to call it, like why I stuck with the team is no player requested a trade out. Like in fact, like 99% of the players made the move. The only player that didn't make the move that played for the Coyotes was JJ Moser, who was in a trade for Sergachev. Connor Geeky never, who was in that trade too, was never he never played for the Coyotes. So like the fact that no one like requested a trade out. And they all, every time one of these players, coaches, Bill Armstrong, whenever they're interviewed, they always say, we get whatever we need. Like they always make a point to say that. And like, like, obviously it's true, but it's just, it's so great to hear that. And it really sheds light on, how ownership treated the players, especially during those Mullet Arena days. But the fans were always with the players in Arizona. Like it was never about the fans. It was always about the just not getting the things they needed, uh, not being provided what they needed to excel. So because of ownership.
Yeah, gotcha. And obviously, Phoenix is not too far away, but I would contend around here, like our double A team is a Colorado Avalanche kind of affiliate. So a lot more people are fans of the Avalanche. Vegas is closer. They came in the league in 2017. So there's a lot of Vegas fans around here. And especially with the rebuild, I can say there's not tons of Phoenix fans around here. And so when we started to get wind that this might happen, the rumors were on Twitter. I started wanting to get to know the team. Obviously, I've worshipped hockey from the first day that I saw it as a little kid, and I've played my whole life and love it. And, I didn't know much about the team that we were going to acquire. And so you start listening to podcasts, and I'll give a shout out to I believe it was the PHNX Sports podcast
They're
with
great.
Lay,
Yeah.
with Petey and Craig, and they're awesome. And like when the hype video landed here in Utah, dude, like I cried, like I got emotional, like thinking that the NHL was going to be here. And I feel a little bad about this. I didn't think as much about the other side of things, that like we're getting a franchise, but there's an entire city, an entire following that's losing a franchise. And I really got to appreciate that side of things and how terrible that would be, knowing that, like, yeah, you've got this whiteout, amazing game. It's the last game of the season. Pretty much everybody knows it's probably going to be the last game ever. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to be on the other side of that coin and to like lose a franchise?
It was tough. Like I said, they were on the road in Edmonton. This was like 3 games left in the season when it was like actually news that they're gonna move. And so like that was the night I went into the movie theater. And then after that, a lot of crying. I remember after that Edmonton on the road game, I made a video, put some like song to it, Arcade Fire song to it. All the love and support I got from my channel, like I broke down in tears right in the heart of downtown Toronto in our major train station, Union Station. Everyone's looking at me like, why is this guy crying? But yeah, it was rough. I honestly feel so sorry for the local native Arizona fans. I feel like Arizona, it's a very transplant city. Like it's paradise for different reasons compared to Utah looks like a paradise. I got to make my way there. But, a lot of people from Northeast America, like New York, Chicago, like wherever it's cold, like they go to Arizona. So they always have, and those people who transplanted, like they have their historic teams, whether it be Chicago, Rangers, Boston. Like that's why whenever those teams were in town, it was the majority away fans. So I don't think it hit those people that hard, but the local native Arizona fans hit them tremendously hard. Like we're over a year later and the grieving process is still there for them, which is fine. Like no one tells you how long to grieve. I think for me, it took me a month to sort of make the decision to continue to following the team. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to give this a try. We'll do a 1 year trial and see how I feel. I think really the passion and enthusiasm in Utah like really makes this team special. It could have been a scenario where they go to a new city and like it's a dead city, like no one cares. Like that's totally not what happened. Like they went to an almost the same level, if not even more, enthusiasm and passion in Salt Lake City. But going back to losing the team, like you mentioned PHNX, like seeing Leia, Steve, Craig just break down on their podcast, cry, like it was rough. It was really rough to watch. And, some of those people are still grieving, like they still throw shit at the wall. Like they hate Utah, they hate Rand Smith, they hate people who continue to follow team. It's a minority of people, but I just, it's misdirected anger, and that anger should be directed solely at the previous owner of the Coyotes. So it's unfortunate to see that to this day. Like I think on Twitter last night, someone put this reporter from not even a reporter, this guy from Calgary. Um, he was talking about Logan Cooley and how he's disappointed and how he's developing. He used to be a fan of the Coyotes, and he put like Utah in quotation marks, and he's like, Utah's not a real place. And it's like, come on. It's like, you don't say that stuff. Like, so it's misdirected anger, and it hit them hard. But like I said, Arizona, they're having problems with their baseball team too. Like the Diamondbacks, they got to fix their arena, and there's so much intercity politics in Arizona where the different cities don't work together. Like Scottsdale would battle against Phoenix, would battle against Tempe, and now they might lose their baseball team too. So it's really just a mess there, and they got to straighten it out over there.
Well, thank you for explaining that, and I certainly understand the people that are pissed off. Like I don't take that personally, and I would feel the same way if that got taken away from me as well. I do respect the people like you that decided to stick with it and just try. Like for us around here, being a smaller market, being disrespected, we're kind of used to that with the Jazz and that kind of thing. And that's besides Major League Soccer, our only other franchise. So yeah, it's not so much of a surprise around here, but I can tell you, I was there the first day when they did the player introductions. I was at the rookie camp. I was at the preseason game. I was at the inaugural game, and the fans locally showed up. They got smarter as the season went on. So one thing that I noticed, like the first few games, the crowd is booing every penalty that's called against us. And then as the season's going on, they start to realize, yeah, that was actually a penalty and we don't need to boo it. And, the fan traditions kind of started. You saw the veggie chants start for the goalie Karel Vejmelka as he was on the come up, and, all the wonderful things that was done for Connor Ingram here locally when, he had some mental health issues that he's still dealing with. And the woman, Jackie, who organized letters for Ingy and that response, and, all my friends at the local rinks and getting to, wear the jerseys and skate around and stuff is super fun. And since you're such an expert at, how to kind of grow a team, I just want to say that like this team is on an upward trajectory. The goal of the 2024-2025 season was to play meaningful games late in the season. And it was weird. I've never followed a team this closely. And so the business of hockey, the way a season works, I wasn't as familiar with as I thought I was. And like when you're 5 or 6 points down in February, you're thinking like, wow, we're still in it. It's so close. We're really to make up that delta is actually quite hard because all these other teams that are winning will continue winning. So anyway, we're trying to, play meaningful games late in the season this year. The expectation for next year is probably to make the playoffs. And I think people will get quite excited about that prospect. But however, like to be a championship team, that's another few years. Like you have to build that over time. And Utah's in a unique place where we have a really nice draft pick, number 4, which was unexpected. We've got young prospects that are on the come up. We signed 2 amazing players from Russia that will probably see the league at some point this year. And we have assets. We've got a bunch of cash. And in the free market, there's a few players that could really make a splash. Can you talk about, with the sport of hockey, the temptation to spend all your money on a player that might be at their peak today to make a push, but how that can then screw you over in the future?
We see that all the time of GMs just willy-nilly spending money. Players know they're in a contract year. Like they're not dumb. They're like, okay, if I just do really well this year, I'll get a raise. And so that's when GMs make huge mistakes. Right before COVID, there was a free agent year where it was brutal. These contracts being handed out were terrible. I think Matt Duchene for Nashville was one of them, but really bloated contracts that handcuffs teams. That's the main issue, is it handcuffs you. If you throw all your money on one player, and then you kind of need to build around them. Well, all your money is tied up on this one player where you can break up that money into two or three players and have a more well-rounded, deep team, which you need in the playoffs. Like right now, you look at Edmonton and Florida. Edmonton had depth in rounds one, two, and three, and now it's drying up in the finals. Whereas Florida, their depth continues. Like I think I saw a stat where their three out of the four lines, their top three lines, have the same amount of points or goals. So you really need depth to win. Mitch Marner, being from Toronto, he's the biggest free agent right now. I made a video on Mitch Marner only to be like, should we do it? Listed out the pros and cons. He's demanding between 12 and $14 million a year. It doesn't fit the mold Bill Armstrong continues to repeat of being big, strong, and hard to play against. Obviously, Mitch Marner is not that. He's a magician, visionary, offensive dynamo, but he doesn't, play, he doesn't hit hard, intimidate you, or battle physically, or impose himself physically, which Bill Armstrong wants. So it's better to use that money wisely in other places. And you don't need to spend your money. Like just because it's free agency July 1st, you don't need to spend money. You could save it. We got Logan Cooley that's eligible to sign a contract July 1st, and then it kicks in next year. So it won't count for this upcoming season. But if you sign Marner, like I said in my video, to $13 million, and then Cooley gets the same amount of points as Marner, what do you think Cooley's going to do? He's going to be like, I want $13 million, like my teammate. But if you don't sign Marner and Cooley does well, he has really no comparables on Utah. It's like Sergachev is the highest paid player, but he won two cups. He makes 8.5. You look at Keller and Gunther, 7.1. So Cooley, he's going to play well, and he'll probably demand $8 to $9 million without this bloated, expensive contract that if we went out to get Marner. And the Leafs, years ago when they signed a huge free agent in Tavares, $11.5 million, Marner, Matthews, Nylander all performed better, if like at the same level as Tavares, if not more. And then they all demanded that Tavares money. And that literally what caused this whole debacle of them not being able to break through in the playoffs because they had no depth and all their money was tied up to these four forwards. So it's a cautionary tale. And you're going to see a lot of money. Like people are saying Sam Bennett is going to get $10 million. He's doing amazing in the playoffs right now. If Florida wins, he'll probably get the Conn Smythe, the MVP for the playoffs. But $10 million, like his regular season stats aren't $10 million, but some team will probably just do it. They see him what he does in the playoffs, and they'll just throw the bag at him.
Yeah, it's that's exact player I was thinking of when you mentioned contract year. Look at how he's performing in a contract re-sign, probably making $1 million more a year, almost a night when he's scoring as much as he is, leading the postseason at this point in scoring. So yeah, it was frustrating. I can say around here where people are used to the NBA, they're used to the Jazz, and you draft somebody, and in the top 5, the top 10, you're going to see that player in the NBA. And like you mentioned, Jerome McGinley is kid Tej, and we drafted him number 6 this year. And people are like, okay, we saw him at rookie camp, we saw him at training camp. Where is he? Where is this kid? And it's like, no. These guys need time. They need to develop. They're 18 years old. To go into the NHL and play 82 games at the level of speed and physicality that these guys play with all the travel, like it is something else to watch an NHL game and try to compare it to like the Utah Grizzlies, which are a AA affiliate again of the Colorado Avalanche. It is another planet. It is so fast and hard and so difficult that they need time to kind of build into that. And so again, it's a little frustrating for the fans when we draft somebody we think we're going to see them, when it's like no, you might see them in a few years. But yeah, again, I really appreciate that. It's been fun to chat kind of the hockey side of things and the business side of things. The last question I want to ask along the hockey side of things is, what do you think of Utah Mammoth?
It was my second choice for their name. The first one was Yeti. What was your top?
Great question. Yeah, I did like Yeti. It got ruled out relatively quickly with the trademark issues with Yeti Cooler Company, and they've got some ties to the league as well. I heard from pretty good sources around here that Ryan Smith, the organization, went directly to Yeti preemptively to like really try to iron things out, and it just didn't really work out. Of the three that were remaining, I did like Mammoth. I have to say though, Utah Hockey Club kind of grew on me a little bit, and
Same.
I wouldn't have minded if it stayed Utah Hockey Club. It was a little bit awkward at first, and it's a different name for hockey, but it kind of has like a soccer vibe to it, and a lot of the fans started calling themselves clubbers, which can also kind of fit in with the Mammoth branding. But yeah, I like Mammoth. I think it's fine. To be fair, I told you I was a fan from day one, and they could have called it anything, and I would have loved it. So, yeah, second favorite, but definitely a favorite over like Outlaws or some of the others that at the end that were kind of like still in the hunt.
Yeah, so I love the name Mammoth. When Bill Armstrong got hired for the Coyotes, he wanted to be he said a cactus-like team, a prickly team. He always used that imagery to describe his future of the team. And so when they moved to Utah, he continues to say repeatedly, I want to get big. I want to be intimidating, physical. I'm like, the Mammoth fits that so great. Like, imagine just like hearing stomps in the background or in an open field and you see a huge towering mammoth over you. Like that, it's an intimidating name, and the logo's great. It looks fierce, and I think it just fits the way Bill Armstrong sees this team in the future perfectly. But what's funny is there's a cooler company called Mammoth. I tweeted this out a couple months ago
Funny.
that someone found a cooler company called Mammoth. I sent them an email. I tweeted at the cooler company. They were inactive on Twitter for like years. Never heard anything back, but it's funny.
That's really funny. And asking people around here what they think of it. All the hockey fans love it. It's so funny. The people that have told me that they didn't like it or they said the Mammoth has nothing to do with Utah, which isn't true. We've had lots of history of mammoths in the state, but they'll say like, "Oh, Mammoth doesn't have anything to do with Utah," and they're Jazz fans. And you ask them like, "Okay, what about Jazz? What does Jazz have to do with Salt Lake City? What does Jazz have to do with Utah?" And they're like, I don't know. Yeah, we got them from New Orleans. That's why they're called the Jazz. Like it has a lot to do with that city and not ours. People get used to the names. Like it's like LA Lakers. Why are they called the Lakers? That has nothing to do with LA. It's because they came from Minnesota. Like these franchises move around and acquire names and people get used to them. So yeah, anyway, again, I really appreciate your insight there. I love watching your videos. I recommend anybody go to learn about that. You do a great job presenting everything in a really clear way. And I think it's fun to learn about the kind of ins and outs and backstory of different sports, and especially one around here that is quite beloved by me and my community. So that's fantastic.